Good evening, and thank you for joining us for tonight's meeting to discuss zoning changes for Arthur Kramer Elementary School. My name is Mari Carmen Heroles. I'm with Communication Services. And before we start, if I could ask you to mute yourselves as you come in so we don't have background noise, that would be fantastic. Thank you. Buenas noches y gracias por participar en esta reunión para discutir los cambios de uso de suelo para la escuela Arthur Kramer. En unos momentos vamos a empezar a interpretar al español. Si desea escuchar esta presentación en español, puede seleccionar la opción en español en la parte derecha inferior de la pantalla, el icono del mundo. Si por algún motivo no escucha al intérprete, regrese al inglés y vuelva a intentar la opción en español. Si aún no funciona, por favor avísenos por el chat. Desafortunadamente, la opción de interpretación no es compatible con las computadoras Chromebook. Le recomendamos que intente entrar a la reunión utilizando un teléfono celular iPhone o Android, una computadora PC, iPad o tablet para escuchar la reunión en español. Thank you again for joining us tonight. We will answer questions following the presentation. If you have a question, please raise your hand using the raise hand icon that can be found at the bottom of your screen. Or if you would rather, we will call your name and let you unmute. If you prefer, you can also type in your question in the chat and we will read it out and get you an answer. It is my pleasure to welcome the principal for tonight, Kate Walker, to share a few words about the school and why this is an exciting time.
Thank you, Mari Carmen. Hi, and I was just going through the chat, seeing who all was on here. So I'm seeing some old faces and old families, but also some of our current families and my amazing staff. My name is Kate Walker. This is my 6th year as principal at Kramer, and this has been kind of in the works for about 2 to 3 years now. So it's so exciting to see it finally coming to fruition. And I know those of us that have been waiting, maybe have kids in the upper grades now almost, are very ready to get those changes happening. And we are really just excited to share that with you, because I think that our architects have done a really great job. And I think they're really going to capture our community and our support, all of the support that the Hillcrest Forest Association gives us. I think that they've done a really good job capturing that, and I am really looking forward to what they have to say tonight. So welcome, and I'm glad all of you came.
Great, thank you so much. Our trustee has not joined us yet, but when he does, we can always ask him to share a few words later on. But so now I am happy to introduce our Chief of Construction, Brent Alfred, who will tell us about this project and introduce us to the presentation.
Yes, thank you, Mary Carmen, and thank you, Kramer community, for coming out tonight. I'm excited about seeing all these attendees. As Ms. Mary Carmen said, I'm Brent Alfred. I'm the Chief of Construction Services with Dallas ISD, and also lead the bond program. With tonight, you have a great team that's put this presentation together for you. AECOM and Alta as your architects, and we also have Carl Crowley. He's with Master Plan. He's our zoning consultant. And this meeting is primarily about zoning, because we are looking to go to our CPC and City Council, but we also want to give you a sneak peek of this great addition and some of the improvements that we're giving to this community. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Carl, and I'll let you go through the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Brent. As Brent mentioned, my name is Carl Crawley. I'm with Master Plan. We're a local, been around for 40 years, zoning and land use consulting firm. We've represented the district in probably the four last bond programs. And we're the consultant, zoning and land use consultant on Kramer Elementary School in the addition. So probably most of y'all, or some of y'all at least, got a letter from me with a flyer mentioning this meeting and asking you to be here. I sent it out to everybody within 500 feet of the school, and that will be the notification area for the city when we get to a zoning case. Zoning is required for the school. It was built in the 50s. when we had a lot of schools in Dallas were built in the late 50s, early 60s. You can see them all around. They pretty much all have the same architecture. I graduated from Riley Elementary School in Northeast Dallas, same time period, same sort of architecture. Well, when the schools were built, they didn't need zoning in Dallas for a public school. But after 1989, they started needing zoning. And it comes into play when we do an addition and like this, we have to bring us up to the zoning standards to get zoning. So that's why we're here to discuss the zoning request. We applied a number of months ago. We are hopeful that we will go to a public hearing. There's 2 public hearings, one at the City Plan Commission and one at the City Council. We're hopeful to go probably in January. I'd like to say December, but I don't want to get you all too excited about December. It will probably be January. And then we'll go to, that's the City Plan Commission. Those people in the notification area will get a letter from the Plan Commission telling you about the hearing and a ballot for you to vote. Obviously, we want you to vote in favor so we can build this addition. And then there'll be another hearing about a month later at the City Council. You'll get another ballot. And again, we'd love for you to vote in favor of it and send it back. But that's the process we're in the middle of right now. And that's why we're here tonight, is to discuss the zoning case that's coming up, and obviously more importantly, the construction and the new addition and the other parts of this bond program for Kramer. So without much further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Randy, who's with Alta Architects, and Randy's going to lead us through the presentation of their design. So take it away, Randy.
Randy, you're
on
mute.
mute.
Okay, can you hear me now? Unmuted.
No, you're good. We can hear you.
Okay. Okay, great. So anyway, thanks, Carl. I just want to thank everybody at the ISD for the opportunity to be able to take Arthur Kramer Elementary School to the next level. Really excited to see the engagement of the community. I've been to community meetings like this at high schools that have fewer and less attendance. So that's really exciting to me. I hope you get another level of excitement after we run through what we've done with the school, and can carry that on out to other folks in the community too. So just to let you know real quick about, I'm not spending a lot of time about us. We're a 95-year-old firm. We've been doing K-12 elementary schools for over 70 years out of that. I personally have 40 years of specializing in my passion for K-12 education. And some of you may know us from work we did with the ISD in the past and right now, which is Billy Dade Middle School and also LG Pinkston. So without further ado, to dive into this picture before we move on, there's a couple of things about this that were attributes that we felt were very important. Number one, it's a school in nature, especially when you approach it from Midbury, wonderful canopy of trees that we tried to respect as much as we could with our new addition work. And then also the character of, because we are renovating the interior of the school, especially the classroom wings, the wonderful light that is achieved with the windows that were back in style in the 50s and 60s. And so we try to, you'll see, hopefully reflect some of that in the new addition, the character of the quality of the interior spaces, and also the respect for the architecture that's already there. And so without that, I think we can go to the next slide. This is a view of the existing, just to show the situation. Of course, the main entry, which everybody's familiar with, is down toward Midbury, that you access the school. One of the things we were charged with was improving security and improving a security entry function at that location, which I hope that you'll see that we have achieved. The second part, as you can see, there's like 17 portables out there. We were charged as we developed and had great discussions with Principal Walker. The project evolved into the idea of, let's get rid of all these portables off the site. So the addition is sized to do just that as we go forward. And as you can see, the location of the trees and such, there are some things there's some incidental work on sidewalks and outside and replacement of the parking lot over on the St. Jude's. And then you'll see what happens as we go through the project on the construction. Okay. So here's just the same view. We build 3D models as we develop our designs, and so this just shows the relationship of the existing parts of this. Of course, there's the large playground that's over there on Tunica. The community garden is very important to the school, and you can see the locations of the portables. But the idea of this, you get a sense of scale of the parts in this the project, the long, low wings for classrooms. And the only high parts are really the auditorium and back in the cafeteria and the gym, gym. Okay. Now this is a view, and we'll show a little bit more detail on this. So what we elected to do, I'll start with the new administration building. One thing we noticed when you come in, number one is there was not a lot of visual security of the entry. And so the administration was in that at the neck of the U where the courtyard is, that connector piece in the middle of the school, which also we found when you walk in, and if you don't know the school, you don't know exactly, it's not very clear how to get there. So we thought a major decision was pull the administrative offices out to the front. The administrators can monitor the entry. We've created a secure vestibule where folks have to come in and they can't advance any further till they check in at that point. One thing you'll see is a hole that in the middle of that building, and we're respecting that wonderful, beautiful heritage oak that's right there. So we're intending to preserve that, and you'll see what that will do for the interior spaces. We think that's great. So then as you can see, we have now a 12 classroom addition in orange right there on the end. Part of that is a storm shelter that we've designed. There's 3 classrooms in a common area on that end where the cursor is. And so what that does, that location enables us to complete efficient, safe interior circulation of for teachers and students without any dead ends, essentially in the layout of the school. It turns the interior courtyard into a very secure space. So that's like an outdoor learning area. It's now entirely secure. And we also have located it pulled away. You can see some small connectors. Those are the corridors extend out. We didn't push it right next to we didn't push it against the existing wings because we noted there's a line of trees right there. So we've pulled out the addition away from the existing wings to allow those trees to remain. We thought that was an important thing to do. And then, of course, so we'll bring up the playground will be relocated to the back. And we think ultimately, we're going to walk you all through that, but we think ultimately that is, although it's very convenient where it is to the community, it's really a very more secure location in the fact that it's not right on the street corner, and it also has some great visual surveillance from the classrooms by the teachers of that area. Okay. Next. And here you can see what we've been looking at in plan. Again, starting with the administration. What's going to happen down there, we're going to replace the pavers that come out currently. That's going to be all now concrete in the front. There's your entry. That's going to be a sort of a higher entry lobby right there. You'll check in. There'll be a double set of doors where you'll have to check in through a reception. And you can see where we preserve the tree. So all the offices wrap around. There'll be a nurse's clinic in there, and there'll be glass. It'll be glass encased court with the tree and a place where really intended for staff to go out, have some quiet space, some natural shade to go to. And then you can see the classroom wing. You can see the trees that have been preserved because we pulled it to the right. The storm shelter is up on the north end, which is up there. In that location also, if it's needed in the future, it's sort of a natural place to do an extension of more classrooms if it's ever needed, or other facilities. But we wanted to make sure that when we relocated the playground, that we had a really good connection to the street, and we'll show you that a little bit later. So We relocated the playground monument over there on Tunica. And then we're going to have a special sort of a shaded reading nook in that location as you come up, where you can have some quiet reflection. And then there's a clear path over, and most of our landscaping, like new landscaping, is going to be focused on the back, because, you know, the back is very, you know, it's an open field. So we're hoping to kind of bring some of the trees from the front to the back of the school. And of course, all the portables will be gone. That was a key thing. Okay. Here's a preview of the offices in the front. So we decided we wanted to provide nice light for everybody working in that environment. You can see the taller entry location, and then we'll have of course the concrete coming out to the street there. So we wanted to create, this is going to be like the new front door to the school, and make it a very nice, appealing presence where it's very clear where the entry of the school is. There's your tree. Yes, thank you. That's the tree that we've got in the middle of the addition. So it's peeking above the roof. Okay. So these are now your elevations from Tunica. So you can see the arrows. That's the new main administration. Now, we're not, the rest of the existing building, we're doing power washing. We're cleaning it up. We're doing repairing waterproofing sealants. Oh, we're fixing some of the roof. I'm sorry, I'm getting a frog in my throat. But we're maintaining, we're using the same, we're matching as much as we can the existing brick color. And we're going to bring some of that detailing, as you can see, on the auditorium and over on the new addition, that projected brick texture. We're going to bring that into our new addition on the right. The other thing that we've done, as you can see on that and below, we're using extended windows that are divided in a similar fashion to the existing classroom windows. They're not quite as big. You might notice these are oversized really for typical elementary classrooms, but they're not quite as big because they're the ones in the storm shelter are limited in terms of, you have to have storm shutters, and the size limits you to how big they can be. But we've made them as big as we can make them. So we thought that was very important. And then you'll see we're introducing some of the school colors. So in between the glass there, and then also at the indoor on the upper one right there, we're using a green glazed brick. So we want to bring the school color. Thank you. We want to bring the school color into the elevation to make it a little special touch. That's it. So here's a view. Here's a view of the new entry to the playground location. We understand the importance of this to the community, and we're going to relocate the sign that's currently facing the other street, put it here so you can see it's going to be very visible location from street side. There'll be a straight shot going out, and then you can see right there where the cursor is, that's going to be what we are calling it, and we would invite perhaps something that should be named by the school, but just as a working title, we're calling it Rick Stanley's Corner. So it'll be a shaded place. We're going to relocate those boulders that are out in the playground, bring them over, so you'll have the memory of those elements, some shade structure, and nice place to sit and read. Could be as good as well for students as for teachers or the community after, weekends or after school. And you can see down in the distance, we're going to relocate as many of the elements of the existing playground as we can. So you see the two green canopies. Those are the ones that are currently along Tunica. We're just going to take them and put them back there. So there's a place where parents can, of course, sit under shade and watch the kids. It's going to be a little closer to the playground, so it'll be a little easier to do that, we think. So next. And this is a view as you're, say, approaching on that sidewalk from Mason Dells, and you're getting you're walking past the playground. So we just wanted to show this so you can see that the playground is very observable during school hours from teachers that are occupying the classrooms in in the glass. So we feel like that, with its location a little further from the street, is a really great place for safety for the kids that are there. And it'll be, I'm sure, just as accessible on weekends and such. Okay. And there's the pirate, excuse me, I just want to point, there's the pirate ship. So we're moving the pirate ship, as folks call it. Okay. Okay. So next for this. I don't know, Carl, do you want to speak to this one?
Yes.
Or do you want to wait
Yes.
and we'll jump ahead for a few? We just have the schedule and such.
Well, let me speak on this, and then we'll go to schedule, and then we can open it up. The traffic engineer for this, as part of the zoning, we are tasked with preparing a traffic management plan for the school to follow. Now, obviously, it's an existing school, been there, as I mentioned, for a long time. And the traffic patterns have probably have been pretty close to the same for a long time also. And we're not building a new school, and we're not building new driveways and new other things. So the queuing for cars for parents, this is the pickup time. Drop off is usually a little different because parents come between a longer period to drop off. So it follows pretty much the same pattern. The principal worked with students are divided into different age groups and dismissed in different locations. It's my understanding. And I don't believe anything is really changing in that pattern from what's out there today. So I'd love to say we've solved all the world's traffic problems around the school, but for those of you, and like I mentioned, I've been doing these for a long time, shall we say, and it's 15 minutes of chaos at 3 o'clock, and then if you live around there, you look at your watch and go, don't go out. And there's 15 minutes of chaos. Well, there will still be, sorry to say, 15 minutes of chaos. There'll be a new wing and less portables to look at while you're in line, though. That's good, right? No portables to look at. That's good. But otherwise, the traffic pattern is pretty much going to stay the 15 minutes of chaos. And it sounds like it seems to be working. The transportation people didn't have any lists of complaints for us to fix. So it seems to be working as best as can be, and I'll just leave it like that. So I guess, Randy, if you want to go to the next slide, we'll talk about the schedule.
Thanks, Carl.
Sure.
So this is a little graphic of kind of the pathway to, I know this process always takes longer than everybody wants, but just understand that to do this school, because we're touching every classroom in the space, we have to move kids around. So just a little understanding is that there'll be phasing where we will assign certain classrooms for a contractor to work on after hours or whatever. And those classes will likely move. And we'll work with Ms. Walker on how that happens. But we'll find that between the portables and the rest of the school, we're going to have to work it piece by piece, as opposed to a contractor moving in it and doing it all at once. So where we are right now, we've started the design, we've done all the development. We're right now to issue the documents for permitting. So that's going to be coming. We got a few little bureaucratic things to work through, typical for that process. So that's coming here toward the end of the year. We'll have that in place, and then it'll be issued for bid in the spring based on the district's schedule. It's going to go for competitive sealed proposals, so it's open to qualified contractors. There'll be construction starts through the approval process and contracts and all of that the summer of 2023, which is where you want it to start, so they can move on site with minimum disruption. And then we're anticipating through the fall of 2024 to be ready for the school to move in. At that point, all the portables will be gone. So you'll see portables out there until this point. Just know that they are going to be gone at the end of the process. So I'm sure everybody's going to be looking for that. And that point will be complete. We'll have a new school year, and the school will be up and running. And I hope students will all be excited about their new digs. Everything's going to be freshened up with new paint and ceilings and new teaching surfaces and cabinets. And so everything's going to get refreshed on the classroom side. So it'll be hopefully a wonderful thing. But it's just like renovating your house. You have to live through it to get to the end. So that's our overall schedule. And we'll
Randy, I think you probably please everybody with, and you and I both, with portables will be gone.
Yes.
If I could start every meeting with portables would be gone, the meeting would be a lot nicer. So Mary Carmen, I guess we can open it up for questions.
Great, definitely. One, if I can introduce City Council member Janie Schultz. She wanted to say hello to everyone before we start with the questions.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And thank you all for being on this call, this program. I just wanted to let you all know that we are well in hand in terms of getting us through the next steps. My internet is unstable, so if I lose you, please know that many of you know Planning Commissioner, and so those she's going to have to well in hand all the way through City Council. So once we hear your concerns and questions, please out to us as well if you have things that you would like to see. So I'm janie.schultz@dallas.gov. I'll put it in the chat. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And just as a reminder, if you have a question, please raise your hand in the raised hand icon on the bottom of your screen, and we will ask you to unmute, or you can also type it into the chat and we will read it out and get you an answer. And I think we have two hands raised. Alden Brousseau, if you want to unmute and ask your question.
Sure, thank you so much. So I've been a Kramer parent for 7 years, and Ms. Walker can pipe in on this. I didn't hear anything about any upgrades to our cafeteria. We had worked with some district folks a couple of years back, and we had been told that we were in the queue for some much needed renovations to our cooking space and just the space where the kids eat. And I didn't know if that is something that will be updated as part of this this renovation.
Go ahead.
You want us to answer?
Yes, go ahead, Randy.
Okay. First, I want to take a little opportunity. I've been very neglectful. We have two members of our team here. Venera Magaloni is our senior project manager. And then we have Nick, who just popped up. He's our executive director of operations for K-12. So apologize, guys, but I just want to know that we have a team. So they may help answer some questions. But on that one, we are doing some work. Of course, we're refreshing the finishes in the space. But in terms of actual new equipment, we are working, we're repairing some of the plumbing for the, out to the grease trap. But in terms of like creating a new kitchen, it hasn't been part of the scope that we were working on.
Thank you.
And we also have Carolyn Moore, who has a question, if you want to unmute.
Yes, hi. Thank you so much for this presentation. I think what you've done overall is wonderful in terms of how it blends with the existing school, and keeping the tree in the front is really, fantastic. I've got 2 daughters who are currently at Kramer and 2 more who will be at Kramer, and we live on Midbury. So we'll be using this for a long time. We really appreciate all the efforts. I just have a quick question on what's the capacity number of classrooms in the addition? Do you have the actual number on how many classrooms are being added?
Yes. They are in the new addition. We'll have 12 classrooms. So it's going to be a one-to-one replacement for the classrooms that are currently in portables.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much.
And I will say there is a common space, a learning space inside there also, in addition to that.
And we have a question that was typed into the chat. How many proposals have gone through this process for Dallas ISD in total, like all school, and how many were approved?
Well, for zoning, and I'm just going to answer it for zoning. I am working on 20 plus different campuses right now. Probably 25, and there's still a number that still need to be submitted for zoning, and there's some that don't even need zoning. Renovations, repairs, things like that aren't additions may not need zoning. So far, there have been 3 schools approved in the process. Let's see, John Q. Adams, or a replacement school, Lennar Hall, a replacement school, and my alma mater, yay, Martha Turner Riley, a replacement school. Nothing to do with it being Martha Turner Riley and already approved. I had nothing to do with it. I'm proud of that, but I had nothing to do.
Okay, thank you. Always glad to have a former Dallas ISD student come back and
All the way through. Skyline High School.
Excellent. And Micah Manister, if you would like to unmute.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm Micah Manister. I'm the current PTA president. I've been with Kramer about 10 plus years now, and I think this is a very exciting change, and I welcome it and I look forward to it. A couple of things that I want everyone to keep in mind is that the goals of the school to stay in the mindset of an IB school. We were one of the very first schools to become recognized and registered as an IB World School. So we want to make sure that this plan is also on pace to match what an instructional model of an IB school is, and not just a stock product, because this is a very, very big overhaul. So we want to make sure that what we are doing for 2024 matches how we are progressing for our school. So that's something I did want to make sure that all the instructional models are being met that way. If we're meeting with the planning committees or a site-based team, so what conversation is being had for that? And if the innovation and the transformation department, are they involved in this progress and this renovation? So who else is involved in this just besides Alta and the AECOM? Because what we don't want is just to become another, basic footprint. Not that this is, I'm just saying, as we as a public school are moving towards, progressing and getting everybody back in our neighborhood, that's our goal. But to stay as a magnet school or a world school, an IB school, to make sure we are seeking that need for our children. And that's all. So will there be a planning committee? I mean, have all those questions been thought out in terms of how the IB model fits into your plan for the internal workings?
We have followed the Dallas ISD educational specifications for the classrooms, and in having common learning area in the new edition. But if anybody else wants to answer concerning the Ivy League.
Because there have been some of the newer schools that you all have designs. I don't know who designed them, and I'm sorry I don't have that information, but for the solar prep school, that is what we need. We need to make sure that we are in line with those magnet schools, if it's whether it's a SUDI or a solar. So any changes that are happening, and that we're investing this bond money and $13 million to improve upon what we are doing and to keep it the integrity of the school in the neighborhood, but more importantly, the education, that we are in the right pace in the step of the IB world model. That's what I want to make sure that we are looking at, not just making the campus look pretty, although that is important, but the educational side, following that footprint, that's what matters.
Yeah, during the design process, the architect will meet with each one of those departments, like Office of Transformation, led by Dr. Brian Lusk and his group, and Angie Gaylord, and as well as the other departments as we go through the design to make sure it's meeting any of the specifications they have for us. And that is part of our normal design review process.
And so will you be seeking out a site-based development team for that from your neighbors and your families from Kramer to make sure that we're all on the same page?
I would invite Dr. Lusk and his group or Angie Gaylord to come speak on that behalf, so you could hear directly from them. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And we have two questions on the chat. The first one is, I noticed what appears to look like some part of a fence around the perimeter of the new playground. Will this be installed?
Yes, it will. There'll be a complete fence around the perimeter of the playground. Of course, you want to secure that. It's envisioned right now as a lower fence to help keep the smaller students within the boundaries so they can be supervised better. You can see it right there. Yes, it'll be an ornamental fence, so not just a chain link. It'll have it'll be an attractive fence perimeter.
Okay, great. And do you have a sense of how construction traffic may affect the neighborhood as the new classroom wing is under construction?
Randy, I'll
Yeah.
jump in there to say, obviously, that when the contractor is brought on board, they will work with the architect and the DISC establishing laydown yards for equipment, things of that nature. Obviously, contractors have to go through, and all their employees have to be badged. They go through a very extensive screening process. That's more the individual. Obviously, at some point there may be some lane closures and stuff just because they have to bring equipment in place and material, but obviously that's going to be minimized. A lot of the work is scheduled, if possible, obviously during the summer months to get some of that heavy stuff out of the way. And then all the construction and safety measures are put in place, and the district has safety people that go out, and AECOM has safety people. They go out on an almost daily basis to make sure the interaction, or there's no interaction really, between the construction and the students. And then the interior renovations, and Randy, correct me if I'm wrong, are done nights and weekends, if at all possible, or they'll go in and shift those students from a classroom, work on that classroom, so that students aren't there, and then it's very compartmentalized so the students don't interact with the construction and the safety purposes.
Yeah, Carl, that's correct. There is we've have worked up a phasing plan on that. It's not shown here, but the one thing I do want to say, to get more into it, is that the very first thing on the very first phase is to rebuild the playground, because what's going to happen is that whole corner with Midbury and Tunica, where the construction is, that's going to be turned over to the contractor. So that will have a construction fence around it, and he'll have operations, but that's not likely to be, that area also up to a certain point. If he needs more space, it probably would be back on the far corner where he might store materials also in an enclosure. We're going to work that out when we actually get a contractor on board, but we've developed a plan. So what will happen is there'll be assigned gates that will be controlled, and so it's not like he's going to enter from all directions. That's worked out. So the very first thing is relocating the playground is a real key, and then we can turn that corner over to the contractor to build the addition. And the renovation work will be after hours or weekends. We get started in the summer. He of course has. There may be things we got to understand what's going on in the school at that time, but definitely that's a great time to get a jump on the renovation part of the work.
And
Right.
there's a comment from Councilwoman Schultz in the chat, or do you want to?
No, yeah, and she asked about work hours, and the city of Dallas has work hours that are limited. It's 7 to 7 Monday through Friday. I think it's 8 to 7-ish or so on Saturday. No work allowed on Sundays. So those are in place now. Obviously, if there's problems with that or noise or stuff, then we'd ask that you reach out to I'm sure the district will have a contact person to reach out to if there's any problems and stuff. So
Great. And Alden Brousseau, you have your hand raised if you want to unmute.
Thank you. I have 3 questions about the playground relocation. On our current playground, there are some bricks that neighborhood community members have purchased to help fund when the playground was redone several years ago. will those be relocated to the new playground as well?
So where we're intending to do that is that what we're calling Rick Stanley's Corner. So with
Okay.
the paving in there, we're thinking that we could set those probably in something like decomposed granite, but we're going to definitely salvage all those because those are folks that have contributed to the school, and that will be the sort of the place of honor.
Wonderful, thank you. And then when when things are relocated, does it ever happen that the current equipment breaks when it's moved? And if that happens, are there funds to repair those things?
Two things on that. We've had actually a vendor that supplies playground equipment come out and look at the equipment, and one of the playscapes, not the pirate ship, but the other one may have to be replaced, and so we're anticipating building that funding into the project. If there's an unforeseen problem with that, which in relocating there is a contingency. There'll be a contingency allowance in the project to deal with, and not only that, things get, when you do a renovation, we find pipes where there shouldn't be pipes and that kind of thing. So there's a mechanism to deal with that sort of thing.
Okay, thank you very much.
And we have a question in the chat or comment, well, not question. For the safety of students and staff, will they be adding window guard, one-way vision protection to the front entrance?
Are you talking about intrusion film or protection?
Yeah, one-way vision protection to the front entrance.
Oh, one-way vision protection. We haven't addressed that specifically. We've been having discussions with the ISD on, it involves because they have to look at all the schools. So as a standard, so we've had some discussions about, enhancing the glass in that location for security. But I think that's going to be ongoing as we go further before we get out to bid.
Randy, if I may add, we do have the vestibule security vestibule, right? So anyone to enter the school needs to go through the security and check in with the administration in order to pass through. So that security has been improved, and it's a standard with the Dallas SD.
Great, thank you. And a question in the chat: what exactly is the gray shaded area just north of the community garden?
Oh, that's a little like a pavilion out there.
It's existing, right, Randy?
Yes, it's existing. It's not new. It remains. Everything associated with community garden remains, though. Little gazebo, etc. Okay. Fencing, etc.
And Sarah Ruffner, if you would like to unmute for your question.
Yes, thank you. Thank you guys for this presentation. My name is Sarah Ruffner. We live in the neighborhood. Actually, we face the teacher parking lot and have a daughter who's at Kramer currently. I guess maybe in the northeast quadrant, there is a dark gray northwest, quadrant. Yes, that is the portable that's currently there, and that's going to stay. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And what was the thought process behind not replacing that? I just was curious.
It was not part of the program that the ISD had developed prior to us getting on the project. So we have not addressed any improvements on that structure.
Right. I just in terms of, getting rid of all the portables, it's nice to get rid of all of them, I guess, if we're going to do that. So it just wasn't addressed. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Not in the definition of the work that we were given from the bond work.
Okay.
I'm sure there were probably discussions to get to the scope of the project for the bond, but that was passed on to us as part of the bond.
Okay.
And Brandy Treadway, you had a question?
Thanks. I also live in the neighborhood. My girls went to Kramer for 8 years, big supporter of the school. Can you go back to the playground scheme? There's already a fence around the entire perimeter. Did I hear you say there'll be a second fence around the new playground itself?
Yes, there will be. That's our thought on it, because we typically do that for the the smaller kids. So for some reason they don't start
That's
wander
not
off
what-
when someone's not looking. That's the only reason for it, really. It's a 4-footer fence.
Well, because the current playground doesn't have that, correct?
There's a fence it's on the boundary of that, like there is
Yeah.
there's
There's a fence around the whole playground, the whole area.
the whole area has a fence.
But that's what I'm trying to confirm. There's already a fence around the entire square. So are we talking about adding a fence around the new playground or just maintaining the existing fence?
Oh, there's where the relocated playground is?
Yes.
No, there's I don't believe there's a fence there right now.
There's
It's
the perimeter fence around the whole school or the
Yes.
majority
Yeah.
of the school. And
Yes.
then this will be another fence inside that, just as Randy mentioned, just to sort of be able to keep track of the kids when they're out there playing. It's a little easier to do that.
Okay, but you've got the blacktop to the left and the fields to the left and the right. So you're going to have kids going back and forth between fences?
Oh, there'll be gates in the fence.
Also, Carl, this is Micah. This was not presented in the meeting on Monday with the neighborhood association. And Brandy, you correct me because you were there. I don't recall a interior gate.
I don't
in the
either.
plan.
That's why I'm asking. I didn't recall a discussion around it either. I think
Part of the issue with our neighbors is that they felt that the entrance points to Tunica and Masondales were visible enough when actually we aren't taking away any access or entry points, regardless of the, transformation. So now we're having an additional fence. Is that what you're saying? That's just surrounding the perimeter of the playground?
Just the
Yeah, but-
playground, right?
Vanera, could you go to the rendering perspective view?
That's Tunica right there.
Right.
Okay.
So that's in the existing fence, say, right?
Right.
there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So the next,
There.
so there's we're proposing for this is there's a low, like 4-foot fence that goes around the perimeter of the softball play area. And also the shaded area there'll be benches under the shade area. And we're going to plant trees around the perimeter, but that fence is there just for control of the play area. For certain
I think one of
classes.
one of the things that a lot of the neighbors and the school and the staff and the kids love is that it is one just long line sight and that you can just run to and from. So again, I think, I don't know about the fence, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's new. I agree with
That's new
Micah.
from Monday.
And I mean, I would want Miss Walker to weigh in and the teachers. I do think having a double fence seems a little awkward to me, but I think if there's a safety concern, I do think kids they use that whole space, and that's the beauty of locating everything on the Masondales side. You can go from the blacktop to the playground to the soccer fields, and there's one line of sight from a parent or a teacher.
The fence is not mandatory. It's certainly open for discussion.
But again, I think I'd like to have the principal weigh in too, because obviously she's there and if it's not needed, then you're right. It's not needed.
Well, just based on the meeting on Monday, as much as I want Kate to have a weigh in, because it is, essentially her school and these children, the biggest issue, as you know, Carl and Brandy knows from the meeting on Monday, was the neighbors not feeling that the playground was their community playground anymore. And that the fences were a problem in their mind. And now we did not present this on Monday to HFNA. I do think that they might have a problem because the fences and the relocation of the playground is the number one objection and of the neighborhood association. And correct me if I'm wrong, Brandy.
Yeah, I think it's a balance of accessibility and safety.
Mhm.
I don't know if there's anyone on the call from the neighborhood association.
No,
I see
well,
Ronald, are you
Jamie
waving?
was. I was hoping Bruce would be on here.
I mean,
I saw Ronald Brocky. Are you trying? Did you raise your hand? I think you're on mute.
Yes, I have for a while.
Okay.
I'm Ron Brackey. I live on Eudora. I'm known as the trash man. I think I clean up around the school every morning that I'm here in Dallas. And I probably know more about the outside of the facility than anybody from the ISD has ever thought of, because I have constant consultation. One thing that I hope you have looked at is you have a major drainage problem. I've been walking around it for 30 years. Mosquitoes, and you have, I mean, and it goes to the east. I have to call after every rain to have the mud taken off of the sidewalk. It goes from 1 inch to 1.5 inches deep in some locations. It's also on the northwest corner. The other issue I have is the playground moving. I think if in fact the only entrance to the playground is going to be off of Midbury, that's an issue. Mason Dells. It needs to be off of the north side for the community. View. I'm there. I see a lot of people coming and going to that playground, and to not have that corrected on the north side, I think, is a major oversight. So those would be comments of just, I mean, you really do have to look at the drainage. When the Southwest, I assume you have the plans, all the plans from when the Southwest edition was made a few years ago. If you note, there's a major drainage that goes underground from the south side of the school to the east side and dumps in clear in the northeast corner. I have tried for 3 years to get 2 or 3 additional drain sumps in there, and it would solve the problem of the mud on the street. No one is willing to listen. So every week or 2 when it rains, they can send 3 or 4 workmen out to get the mud off the street. And so I would hope in this reconstruction, which we're very supportive of. My wife is a former PTA president there, that you solve some drainage problems because there's some serious ones, mosquitoes, and also on the east, that part of the city thing that, you know, there's a sump down there that drains from the school roof and it plugs constantly. And I continue to put mosquito devices in there to control, because sometimes it has 3 feet of water in there. Hopefully that needs to be filled. That was built with the concept of the 50s. So those are just some observations. We're very supportive of the new addition, but I think moving the playground and not giving access to equal of what it is now will be a problem for the community.
Thank you so much for your input on that. We really appreciate it, and we'll take it. Definitely, we've recording this, so we'll contact as well our operations department and see if there's anything that can be done in the meantime with those issues. We do have a comment on the chat from Kevin Roberts. I don't know that this is part of the plan, but if I had a vote, I would vote for a more attractive boundary fence for the entire school property than a chain link fence. But that's just me. That's what he said.
Could I answer Mr. Brecky?
Sure.
I appreciate the comments. I'm glad to have those, and I'm sure we'll be able to extract your experience out there, because that's very important to us. But just to let you know, we've seen a drainage problem on the west, in between the classroom wings over there, and I guess is at the cafeteria on the other side of where the cursor is right now, where the tower is for the cooling tower. So we're dealing with we're dealing with the drainage in there. We are adding area drains in the center also. So we're doing some of that work. If you've got insight of your experience, we're certainly glad that you've pointed us to look at certain things.
Great. And so we are coming down to the hour for this meeting. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand and we'll ask you to unmute or put them in the chat. If not, if there are any other concerns that you would like to share, maybe share them with your principal. And we're always in communication with the school as the project moves forward. And we appreciate all of you joining. We do have a comment from a question. Will the existing electrical panels to the east of the white top be relocated to make room for the playground?
The answer is yes. It's one of the first things we saw, where you got a place where kids are out there and there's those electrical panels. That was our first comments about the project.
Yes, so safety first, obviously.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for joining us. Principal Blake, do you have anything you would like to say as we're ending the meeting?
Me.
Oh, Walker, I'm sorry. Why did I
was
click
like,
yes? I don't know why I called you Blake. I'm so sorry.
No, I just want to say thank you everyone for coming this evening, staff and also our families and our people from the neighborhood, and Mr. Cordoba's here, my ED. So we are, again, thank you for your thoughtful questions. A lot of them I have heard before, and a lot of them I tend to agree. And so we will, work with the district and do what we can to make it a place that is, welcoming for everyone, while also considering school safety.
Thank you.
I have to say. Thank y'all.
So, okay, if Chief Alfred, would you like to close us out for tonight? Thank you so much to everyone for joining us.
Yes, thank you. Great conversation, great comments from the whole neighborhood. And I'd like to thank Councilwoman Schultz for joining us tonight. That was a special treat. And again, thank you, voters. If it wasn't for you, we would not have these bond programs. But we did hear you. We heard your comments, and we're going to work with our team to address some of these. And we'll follow up through Principal Walker to communicate back out to the group. And we're always willing to come and support her at the SPDM meetings and PTA meetings to continue to give updates throughout the process. So with that, we'll say good night. Thank you, guys.